Hey guys, it's Nabil. Hope everyone is doing great. So, it is officially the release date, well, at least in a few hours here when I live, for Fatal Fury City of the Walls. Although we've been playing it for a while, right? I mean, you've been playing it since Monday, I've been playing it since last week for, doing the review, which I hope you guys have checked the review because I think the game is amazing, has a lot of potential to be the best SNK game ever. It's already amazing. There's still a few improvements here and there. But today I just want to talk about something. I want to talk about the story of Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. I'm not going to be spoiling anything. I just want to talk about how SNK chose to tell the story in this game and how it compares to previous games and what it could mean for the future of, the IPs in general, for the future of SNK games. Before I get started, gentle reminder to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you are notified whenever I drop a new video. Alright, so it is a known fact that the SNK fighting games have not had proper ways of telling stories, right? There was never a story mode in an SNK game, with the exception of the King of Fighters 13, which did have a linear story, but it was confusing and difficult. It wasn't the story itself, but the way the menus, the way the mode worked, it was very difficult to actually complete the story because you had to guess what's the right, like which matches to win, which matches to lose. It was a little bit difficult and it wasn't very popular, even though it had a lot of text and a lot of images, a lot of pictures. It was awesome. For the rest of the games, even the recent ones like Samurai Showdown or the King of Fighters, they say it's story, but it was never like story mode. It was basically an arcade mode where you play the characters, you reach the boss, you have a rival scene before, you reach the boss, you have an ending, and then the ending is a what-if situation, and you have to put things together to understand. This is how it has been since the 90s. The 90s, that's how fighting games did this kind of endings, like every single fighting game. But that changed in modern fighting games, right? I mean, if you look at how Mortal Kombat, NetherRealm Studios have reinvented the wheel kind of when it comes to storytelling, and they have the amazing cinematic universe. In fact, so many people buy Mortal Kombat games just for that cinematic story mode. Now, Mortal Kombat is another topic because I think the cinematic story was good, and then the last one I didn't like it at all, Mortal Kombat one. Other games did it in a different way. You have like like for example, Guilty Gear, the last one. The last Guilty Gear, and actually has like a story mode where you don't play. You basically just watch kind of like an anime using in-game graphics, which I don't think it's the point, because I mean, I don't want to watch. I want to watch and play, and also I just don't want to have any cutscenes in there. So it was kind of like at the opposite of the spectrum, which I found it quite interesting, but not enjoyable, at least for me. Then you have the World Tour mode in Street Fighter 6, and I think Capcom went an extra mile to do that 3D adventure thing, like with the World Tour RPG, action RPG. However, there was pretty much no story in it, right? I mean, you had the story that you play, going to Nation and fighting JP and all that with the original character, and I think that's a problem. The fact that you create a character kind of negates the whole point, because you're just an outsider looking at the story from the perspective of this create a character type thing, which I didn't like it. And then you add to the fact that that story didn't go anywhere. Like you follow, you had that the character's friend who Bosch, who ended up, like I'm not gonna spoil what happened, but anyway, the thing is, it didn't go anywhere, right? Every character, have a brand new character. There's a section in the World Tour where you go and find them, but you just go and find that character, and then he just tells you or she tells you something about them, and that's pretty much it. It does not play a role in the story. You don't, like, up until now, it's been 2 years, and the Street Fighter 6 story is a mess, and it's almost non-existent, to be honest. So I was really looking forward to Fatal Fury City of the Walls because, as you know, the franchise itself, Fatal Fury, has a lot of rich lore. If you look at Fatal Fury 3, it is, I believe, not to this day, to probably last week, is the game that had a lot of story in it, a lot of dialogues, a lot of developments, a lot of emotional, drama and things that like SNK at the time, they couldn't fit all that in the game, so they had like an official companion book that has so much story and dialogues, and it was so much, and it's a great book. And as I said, I talked about it in my Fatal Fury 3 video. It's a fantastic little book. So in City of the Wolves, things are different. So the way the story is told in City of the Wolves, and again, I'm not going to be spoiling things, right? Like the major things. I'm just going to hint at some stuff, but I'm not going to be spoiling anything because some people haven't had the game yet, especially those of you who ordered the physical copy. So the way the story is told is there are two ways. The main story is told through the arcade mode, right? So you play through the arcade, you have a rival cutscene, and then you have an ending, right? Now, this is where the story, the brand new story that takes place 2 years after Mark of the Wolves, that's where it takes place. It is in the arcade mode, right? And while it is, again, a what-if scenario, right? I mean, it is a what-if. Some of the endings complement each other in a way that you can put them, like, there's at least like 4 of them that you can put together, and then they will flow in a way that it's actually like how things have ended. And it's, to my surprise, to my big surprise, and again, I know the SNK lore is full of character development, of character moment and drama and all that, but it hasn't been seen in endings and within the games. It was always an extra thing that you had to find. But in this game, you can see the development. You can see characters growing up. You can see emotional turmoil. You can see emotional growth for these characters, which I found fascinating. I think it's just amazing, actually, how much story is in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. So there's little moments, and I am just talking about the arcade mode. And I'm not going to be spoiling things, but it does leave a lot of questions. Obviously, the DLC characters are going to have their own stories, so there's still, the puzzle is not complete. You're still going to put more pieces as more characters show up, specifically Mr. Big, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But he plays a major part in the story, so I'm kind of surprised that he's not coming out until the end of the first season, to be honest. And he even shows up in the anime intro, right? So I think that was really good, like, because I was doing the ending, I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. And by the way, the best ending, I think, in my opinion, is Billy Khan's ending. It is fantastic, right? Fantastic. It explains so much. A lot of the plot holes that we had in Fatal Fury 3 and after Fatal Fury 3, and what happened with the scrolls and all that, and it explains all that in his ending, which is, I think it's the longest. I think it's clocking around 9 minutes. So the endings are super long, by the way. The longest endings we've seen in a fighting game, in a classic fighting game, in like 2D fighting game, whatnot. So I found that fascinating. Now, as I said, I felt a little bit let down that all these amazing story that was written and the amazing art was not put in a linear fashion so that we truly understand what happened. But I think there's still a possibility and hope for that to happen. So that's the main story, right? And it's a conclusion, kind of, to the Fatal Fury franchise. And then we have episodes of Southtown. Now, initially, I thought episodes of Southtown did not have a story, right? However, episodes of Southtown, you choose the character, you can choose which character you want to play as, and each character has a side story, and some of these stories happen around, most of the time it's before the events of City of the Wolves. So, Terry Bogard's one takes place like about a year before. Rock Howard's also kind of like, so it's kind of like it takes place between, most of them, the one I've seen, I haven't done all of them yet, but most of them take place between Mark of the Wolves and City of the Wolves. And here, the way things are presented, there's some artwork, there's no voiceover unlike arcade mode, but then there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of text in episodes of Southtown. And to my surprise, that text, it's not just fluff, it's actually real good stuff, real good character development that's happening in episodes of Southtown, but there's no artwork to show it. Like, some of it is just shown with like the icon of the character, and I think that's a missed opportunity, because when you play episodes of Southtown, you unlock these things called conversations. Now, these conversations are canon interactions between characters that happen at some point. And another problem is that it doesn't tell you when this interaction happens, right? So, for example, there's one when Rock and Terry are talking about how they first met. And this is probably happening around or before Mark of the Wolves, but it doesn't tell you that. Now, as a big fan of the franchise and the lore and all the research I've done over the years, when I see that, I'm like, aha, I know when this is taking place. But 90 or 95% of the audience does not know that, right? And you don't want, you don't want to put the audience in a going into doing the homework and all that. So I think there's a bit of a missed opportunity in that, and I mentioned that in my review. But all that can be fixed. Again, this is not major. But I just want to say that the writing of these dialogues is amazing. It is actually amazing character pieces, right? It tells you how these characters feel. You can feel them. You can relate to them. It tells you, it shows anybody who had doubt about the SNK lore being just fluff. It just stops you right there and you're like, look, this is some really cool stuff. You can take all that and adapt it into an animation, an anime series, and it's gonna be amazing. Which I hope they're gonna do that at some point. But as I said, the lack that this conversation, you just basically listen to them, right? There's just the picture of the character portrait, no artwork for it, and I think again a big missed opportunity, because this would have been a highlight. Seeing these characters talk like that and interact and having these personal moments that you don't see in any other fighting game. You're not going to see that in Street Fighter. You're not going to see that even in Mortal Kombat. You're not going to see these characters interacting this way, reflecting on the past, hearing Rock talking about his father. It is just insane how well it is written for something that probably 90% of people are not even gonna check, because they're not gonna think about that. They'll play episodes of Southtown. They're like, yeah, it says unlock the conversation. Who cares, right? Especially if they go and check it out, they're like, okay, this just, these guys talking, I'm not interested. But if you presented it with music and art, this would have been amazing. And as I said, it is not too late. Maybe they'll update that. Maybe they'll add more artwork. But the length they went to add the depth to these characters is beyond me. It's amazing. Now, as you play in episodes of Southtown, the game tries to, gives you reason why you're hopping from one place to the other fighting, and the dialogues in there are kind of okay, but it's also just text again. Some of the the way the missions work, how they try to give you a reason to do the mission, it's not the best writing, but it's understandable because they try to get you to play. However, if you had some images with that text, I bet it would have been better. I bet it would have been more interesting and more engaging. Now, a lot of people have talked about and looked at all the review, every single review that was published, and the majority, about around 75% of these reviews, talk about how the episodes of Southtown is repetitive. It's or the single player content is lacking in general. So I hope SNK is going to listen, and because they have everything in there, they have the recipe, they have everything's in there, and it can easily be fixed. It really is. You need more artwork, put things together. You can use the episodes of Southtown, and because when I heard episodes of Southtown when they announced it first, I didn't think much of it. But now that I saw what it's about, it's basically this mode where it tells you stories that took place in Southtown, and I think the possibilities are endless. I think it has so much potential. You could use that mode to maybe even retell as you have more and more characters added to the game, especially that Yasuo that said that most legacy characters are coming back. You can use that mode to retell the previous Fatal Fury games, because there's another major problem here when it comes to story. Again, all this writing, amazing writing, so many details, so many character growth, right, that you don't see in other games, as I said. But then there is no recap of what happened before. So the game treats you as someone who knows the lore and knows these characters and knows where the story went. And I don't think that shouldn't have been the way, because again, the majority of people, you're getting people that are playing this franchise for the first time. There are people who, some of you were not even born when the last game, Mark of the Walls, came out 26 years ago. Even if you want to go back and let's say you want to go back and play the other games to know the story, well, the translations of those old games is rubbish, because it didn't make any sense at the time. Whoever did the translation, that just did whatever they wanted. It was just ridiculous that it made no sense. So you really can't tell the story. You have to go, well, of course, I just put in some ads for my channel. You can check the entire recap of the series. It's a short one, it's 30 minutes one, you can watch it. There's a longer one that is over 2 hours that's going to be released in the coming weeks. But again, you're not you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go play the game and see and find out the story, understand. So I think that's a bit of missed opportunity, but it is an absolutely interesting case. The amount of writing, of good writing, character development, emotional growth that you see in these characters that you're not gonna see in other games, right? Now I really hope they're gonna take these modes and expand on them. Add art, consolidate some stuff, make sure that the story flows, let people learn about the previous characters just through artwork. Obviously, if we have animation, it would have been much better, but I understand that might not be possible, and it's probably costly. So just artwork, more artwork to the episodes of Southtown, more stories, retelling the actual City of the Wolves stories in episodes of Southtown would have been great. Retelling the old stories of the previous games would have been fantastic, and I really hope they're gonna update that and they're gonna work on that mode, because as I said, so many people complain about it, and I know SNK listens. They've been doing a fantastic job with City of the Wolves. So far, they just addressed some game bugs that were found, some characters like the Marco Rodriguez Almost Infinite that was found yesterday. They said they're gonna patch it right away, so I think they're really listening, and I really can't wait to see the future of City of the Wolves. It is a fantastic game, and I'm trying to stream every day and play the game and learn it and do well in it. I'm really spending some time with it. So check out my stream later today and join me as we play some games and talk about it and talk about the future of Fatal Fury and every other SNK IP. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave it in the comment section what do you think about the story of City of the Wolves and what you have discovered so far playing the game. Until next time, thank you guys for watching.